Welcome to Peacevision. We are a portal for positive change, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Scott Fine, and he happens to be the subject, him and his pet, Joey, about a new book that came out by a great author, Jerry Robb, and the name of the book is Joey's Legacy. Scott, how did it all begin?
John, our tragic beginning was when we lost our little love, Joey, through a visit to a veterinarian who decided that based on his years of expertise, he could diagnose Joey's condition without the benefit of diagnostics. And so by not performing labs, he was unable to determine the actual condition of Joey's internal organs. And he medicated him with a drug which was later found to be contraindicated for what Joey's condition was, which was renal dysfunction. There are plenty renal-friendly drugs out there that if the diagnosis had been made properly through labs, Joey most likely would have survived that veterinary visit based on the opinions of several independent vets that I engaged with after Joey passed away. 2 days after the administration of the contraindicated drug, Joey, his lungs filled with fluid, his kidneys began to shut down, and having to put him to sleep. So that was the tragic beginning of Joey's legacy. That occurred in June of 2017. A few months later, my wife and I decided to take our very tragic experience and create a place for people who experienced similar fate for their loved ones to come to realize some comfort and solace. And so it was that Joey's legacy began.
So you found out in the interim that this problem that you had and this tragedy is all too common. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We started Joey's Legacy, as I mentioned, in October 2017. By Christmas that year, a mere 2 months later, we had over 200 members, many of whom experienced the same fate with their companion animals by a variety of outcomes, including flawed dental cleanings, spays and neuters that went bad, surgeries that involved literal malpractice, the severing of blood vessels, removal of the wrong organ, all kinds of demonstrations of negligence and incompetence. And while percentage-wise, it's still a small percentage, because the majority of veterinarians, as we know, based on our membership, do a good job. About 80% of the people that join our group tell us they are in our group not because they've ever had a bad experience with a vet, but because of what they've heard from friends and family, and they wanted to join us and educate themselves as to how they may better advocate for their own loved ones with their own veterinarians. So it's been quite an adventure over the past 4 years.
And what can people do? Where can they go for this information, and what services do you provide?
Anyone who believes they've had an experience, including negligence and malpractice with their loved one, can come to us at joeyslegacy.org. We will refer them to one of our 9 veterinarians who will review the records and make a determination if they indeed believe that malpractice or negligence did occur. If they do believe that, then they'll just go ahead and offer to write an opinion letter, which would be forwarded to one of our attorneys in the state where the alleged malpractice occurred for a review and potential legal action. They can come to our website, joeyslegacy.org, for a lot of information on the subject, and they can contact us through the website.
And I have read the book, by the way, by J.L. Robb, and I was astonished to hear all this. I mean, we hear about malpractice to us humans as well, but apparently it's much more rampant in the veterinary world. And apparently, for one of the problems that you picked out in the book was the fact that the veterinary boards are actually stacked by veterinarians who tend to protect their own, which doesn't really help people get to the bottom of things. And on top of that, the way it is now with legislation is that the value of a pet is only the replacement value. It's not seen as a sentient human or a sentient being with the value that exceeds its replacement. Is that correct?
That's correct. We are working toward that day, and I hope to see that day in about 3 or 4 years, where most states recognize our companion animals as much, much more than personal property. It's very disheartening that the veterinary profession is governed, is self-governed by a group of 5 to 8 individuals, most of whom are practicing veterinarians who presumably provide the standard of care or above for their patients, and then in their roles as vet board members completely turn their backs on the pet parents who are now grieving and come to the vet boards for justice.
Half of that. So I just want to introduce the author of the new series, Legacies, Joey's Legacy, has joined us, and that would be J.L. Robb. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, and I apologize for being late.
Not a problem. Well, we were just kind of letting people know the resources that are available and letting them know where to go, and more importantly, what they can do to protect their own pets. And the short answer to that is to check out joeyslegacy.org and to read the book by this famous author that's just joined us. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to write this book.
Actually, it was heartbreaking to write the book. I had no idea this was going on, and I was kind of strolling through my life. Everything was going fine, and then when Scott talked to me and I started getting these stories in, actually, John, I read about 3 stories and decided I couldn't read anymore until I finished the book, because they were so upsetting, and I found myself getting so upset with the veterinarian boards that are really part of the swamp, unfortunately. And like I said, I had no idea this was going on. I've gone to the same veterinarian clinic for 35 years and have never had a problem. But I will say now my eyes are wide open because of what I learned from just writing this book, and the other corruption that's involved in this industry. I don't think it's any more than any other industry, and probably less than in most industries. But there are some bad apples out there, and I think the worst apples is the veterinarian board, that they've never seen a veterinarian they didn't love, and it didn't matter how many complaints had been filed or whether they were on probation or whatever.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it gives a bad rap to everybody in the profession, and we know that there's great people as veterinarians out there, and we want to recognize that. But at the same time, I think your book really kind of helps people understand what the issue is and what they can do to protect themselves and their pets, correct?
That is correct, and I got them over to Scott, his Joey's Legacy, because the animals have no voices, John. You know that. We are the voices. If we don't speak up for them, who's going to do it? And pets love you no matter whether you treat them good, bad, or indifferent. They still love you. It's unconditional, totally unconditional. And Scott's organization is great. If something happens to somebody's pet and they say, this is fishy, you know, my pet didn't have any heart problems. How did it die from a heart attack in the veterinarian clinic? They can go to Scott's site, and Scott goes way out of his way to help these people, and they can get a veterinarian to overlook their veterinarian records. They can get attorneys that will help them fight their battle if they decide to do it. And sometimes it's gratis. And if it's not gratis, it's a deal. They give them a deal to fight this cause. But Joey's Legacy is like a one-stop shop for people that have concerns about this.
Well, thank you both for being with us today. We're going to have you back on to talk about this more in depth. But thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And go to joeyslegacy.org. You can go to buy Jerry's book. But if you need some information and want to help support this cause, then please check out joeyslegacy.org. Guys, have a great day.
Thank you.
John.